John Carter stared at his computer screen, heart racing. The signal patterns danced across his monitor, undeniably artificial in their precision. After 15 years at NASA's Deep Space Communications Center, he knew this wasn't random cosmic noise. This was a message. "Lisa, you need to see this," he called to his colleague without taking his eyes off the screen. Lisa Newman hurried over, her coffee forgotten on her desk. She leaned in, squinting at the repeating sequences. "Is that what I think it is?" she whispered. John nodded. "It's coming from the direction of Proxima Centauri. Same signal, repeating every 9 minutes and 43 seconds. Too precise to be natural." The year was 2087, and humanity had been searching the stars for signs of intelligent life for over a century. Now, in this unremarkable government facility outside of Houston, 2 scientists stared at the first concrete evidence that we weren't alone. Within hours, the facility buzzed with activity. Government officials arrived in black SUVs. Military personnel secured the perimeter. The president was briefed. Within days, the news broke worldwide. "Q-on-take-it-est-abilished with alien civilization," screamed headlines across the globe. Markets temporarily crashed, then soared. Religious leaders called for calm. People celebrated in streets or locked themselves in basements, depending on their perspective on the news. John and Lisa worked tirelessly with a hastily assembled team of linguists, mathematicians, and communication experts to decode the message. The signal contained mathematical principles that eventually unlocked a complex language system. "It's an invitation," Lisa announced to the room of exhausted scientists and government officials after 3 weeks of nonstop work. "They call themselves the Archons, representatives of something called the Galactic Council. They want to meet us." The world's nations, setting aside their differences in the face of this monumental event, formed the United Earth Coalition. After months of exchanging messages, a meeting location was established. A remote area in the New Mexico desert. On a clear September morning, with the world watching via satellite, a sleek silver craft descended from the clouds. It made no sound as it settled on the desert floor, kicking up little dust despite its size, roughly that of a commercial airliner. John stood among the official welcome party, his palms sweating despite the cool morning air. Lisa squeezed his arm reassuringly. "We made first contact possible," she whispered. "Whatever happens next, remember that." A seam appeared in the craft's smooth surface, widening into a doorway. Light spilled out, silhouetting 3 tall, slender figures. The Archons stepped into Earth's sunlight. They were humanoid but clearly alien, standing nearly 7 feet tall with iridescent skin that shifted colors like oil on water. Their eyes were large, entirely black, and without visible pupils. They moved with fluid grace that seemed almost choreographed. "We greet Earth and its people." The center figure spoke in perfect English, its voice melodious and calming. "We are the Archons, emissaries of the Galactic Council, a union of 57 spacefaring civilizations. We come in peace and with an offer." The world held its breath. "Your species has reached a crucial developmental stage. You stand at the threshold of true interstellar capability. The Council wishes to welcome humanity among the galactic community." The Archon extended a 4-fingered hand, presenting the small crystalline device that hovered above its palm. "This contains the basic technological knowledge your people would need to join us. Clean energy, advanced medicine, faster than light travel, all yours if Earth chooses to join the Council." President Helen Reyes stepped forward. "What would membership require of us?" The Archon's skin rippled with patches of blue and gold. "Acceptance of Council oversight, standardization of certain technologies, cultural exchange. The benefits far outweigh any adjustments required." As the diplomatic talks continued through the day, John couldn't shake an uneasy feeling. The offer seemed too perfect, too generous. The Archons answered every question smoothly, anticipated every concern. Walking back to the temporary base that evening, he murmured to Lisa, Does any of this feel rehearsed to you? She nodded slowly, like they've done this before, many times. They looked back at the alien ship gleaming in the setting sun. Something about the Council's perfect offer felt wrong. But the world was already celebrating its new galactic future. Susan Wright peered through her electron microscope at the small circuit board, part of the gift technology the Arkans had provided 6 months ago. Something wasn't right. The engineer had been examining Council technology for weeks now, working late in her lab after her colleagues had gone home. "That shouldn't be there," she muttered, adjusting the magnification. Nestled between the main processing components was a structure that didn't appear on any of the schematics the Arkans had provided. It was microscopic, almost invisible to standard testing equipment. Susan picked up her phone and dialed her friend and fellow engineer, Alan Foster. "Alan, I need you to see this. Can you come to the lab?" An hour later, Alan stood beside her, his face pale as he looked through the microscope. "It's some kind of transmitter," he said quietly. "But what's it sending? And to whom?" They began methodically examining other pieces of Archon technology. The pattern was clear. Every device contained similar unidentified components, invisible to casual inspection. "We need to test what these actually do," Susan said. They built a sealed chamber to isolate one of the devices and hooked it up to monitoring equipment. What they discovered chilled them. The microscopic components emitted regular pulses of an unknown energy type that interacted with human neural patterns. "This is a neural interface," Alan said, voice dropping to a whisper despite their secure lab. "They're monitoring us, maybe even influencing us. The question is, who do we tell?" Susan looked at the data scrolling across her screen. If these devices are everywhere now. 2 days later, they sat in a quiet corner of a local diner, speaking in hushed tones. A man in a plain suit approached their table. "Dr. Wright, Mr. Foster," he said quietly. "My name is Kevin Daniels, military intelligence. I believe we need to talk." He showed them credentials, then led them to a nondescript office building outside the city. Inside was a small command center with monitors displaying various data streams. "You're not the first to notice the anomalies," Daniels explained. "We've had a task force monitoring the Arkans since the first week they arrived." He showed them files documenting subtle behavioral changes in people working closely with Archon technology. Earth representatives who returned from council meetings seemed different, more agreeable, less questioning. "We've intercepted communications suggesting Earth isn't their first acquisition," Daniels continued. "Other species have joined the council under similar circumstances. Many eventually became little more than worker populations." "Mind control?" Susan asked. "We think the neural interfaces are phase 1. Get us dependent on their technology, then gradually increase the influence." Alan paced the room. "The whole planet is embracing their tech. It's in our phones, hospitals, power grids. Exactly why we need people like you," Daniel said. "We're building a resistance. Scientists, military personnel, government insiders who haven't been compromised." Over the following weeks, Susan and Alan joined the resistance. They built secure communication systems using pre-Archon technology, careful to avoid any components that might contain monitoring devices. Their network grew cautiously. A doctor who discovered unusual brain activity patterns in patients using Archon medical devices. A diplomat who remembered conversations she never had during a council visit. A programmer who found hidden protocols in Archon software. 6 months after their discovery, Susan sat in another secret meeting with 24 resistance members. "The integration is accelerating," Daniels informed them, pulling up charts showing the spread of Archon technology. "Our sources indicate they're preparing for the next phase." "What's the endgame?" someone asked. "Total neural integration," Susan replied. "The devices are becoming more sophisticated. If they succeed, humanity becomes another council puppet state." Alan spread out blueprints he'd smuggled from an Archon facility. "They're building integration centers in major cities. Once active, The neural influence radius will cover most populated areas. Then we need to move faster, Daniel said. Humanity has 6 months, maybe less, before we lose our independence forever. The room fell silent as the reality of their situation sank in. Earth had welcomed the Archons as saviors, but now a growing few recognized the truth. The fight for human freedom had just begun. 5 years had passed since the Archons first landed on Earth. Their sleek buildings now towered over major cities. Their technology was integrated into daily life. Most humans welcomed the advancements: longer lifespans, cleaner energy, faster transportation. Few questioned the changes. The resistance, however, had grown stronger in the shadows. Susan Wright stood in an underground laboratory, surrounded by scientists working on equipment built entirely from pre-Archon technology. Her hair had grayed slightly at the temples, her face lined with the stress of leading the scientific division of the resistance. "The neural blocker works," she announced to the room, holding up a small device. "Our tests show it can shield a human brain from the Archon influence waves for up to 72 hours. The scientists applauded quietly. This breakthrough had taken 3 years of work. Across the Atlantic, Alan Foster walked through the gleaming halls of the Earth Council Exchange Program headquarters. His cover as an enthusiastic supporter of the Archons had gained him access to restricted areas. Today, he was headed to the archives section with a security badge cloned from an Archon sympathizer. Once alone in the records room, Alan quickly connected a device to the computer terminal. The technology, developed by the Resistance, bypassed Archon security protocols. Alan searched for records of other civilizations that had joined the Council. His eyes widened as he read the classified reports. Dozens of species had failed integration over the centuries. The reports used clinical language to describe what had happened to them: neural restructuring, cultural optimization, biological standardization. The reality behind these phrases was horrifying. In a different facility, Mary Wilson, the Resistance's top computer specialist, worked feverishly to break into the Archon communication network. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, implementing an algorithm she had developed to mimic Archon data patterns. "I'm in," she whispered, though no one else was in the room. The data flowing across her screen confirmed their worst fears. The Archons had a specific timetable for what they called full neural integration of humanity. The date was set for exactly 6 months from now, a global event where all humans would receive the final gift from the Council. Kevin Daniels, now the commander of the Resistance, received these reports in a secure bunker. Over the years, he had recruited hundreds of military personnel who saw through the Archon deception. They had quietly stockpiled weapons and equipment, preparing for a confrontation they hoped could be avoided. "They're moving faster than we expected," he told his lieutenants. "The final integration ceremony will be held simultaneously in 12 major cities." The Resistance had grown beyond their initial small group. Thousands of humans now knew about the Archon plan. They operated in cells, sharing information through secure channels, recruiting carefully to avoid Archon detection. News of the Great Integration was announced publicly the following week. The Archons presented it as the culmination of their partnership with humanity, a celebration where all humans would receive a special neural enhancement allowing them to fully participate in galactic society. Most people eagerly signed up. Those who hesitated found themselves encouraged by friends and family who had already been subtly influenced by the existing Archon technology. The Resistance began leaking information to the public, evidence of the Archons' true intentions. Some people listened, most dismissed it as conspiracy theories. "We're running out of time," Susan told the Resistance Leadership Council. "Once the integration happens, we lose everyone who's affected." "Then we need to stop the ceremony," Daniels replied. "In every location, simultaneously." Alan unfolded a map showing the 12 integration centers. "Security will be intense. The Archons suspect resistance, even if they don't know our full strength." Mary looked up from her computer. "I can disrupt their communication network for about 10 minutes. That's our window." They all understood what was at stake. 5 years of preparation would come down to one coordinated strike. If they failed, humanity would lose its freedom, perhaps forever. "Let's plan the mission," Daniel said. "Humanity gets one shot at this." Susan Wright didn't sleep much these days. Her lab had become both her workplace and home as the Resistance prepared for their most crucial operation. She carefully examined the neural blocker prototype in her hand, a small device that could be worn like a watch. "The latest tests confirm 100% effectiveness," she told her team of scientists. "The blocker creates a field that prevents the Archon's signals from reaching the brain." A young physicist asked, "How many can we produce before the integration ceremony?" "With our current facilities, about 10,000, Susan replied. "Not enough for everyone, but enough for our key operatives, and as many civilians as we can protect." Production began immediately. The Resistance had established secret manufacturing facilities in abandoned buildings and underground bunkers across the globe. Meanwhile, Mary Wilson had made another breakthrough. Working from a hidden server farm, she had created a virus designed specifically to infiltrate Archon systems. "Their technology is advanced, but they never expected us to understand it well enough to hack it," she explained to Daniels during a secure video call. "The virus will spread through their network and temporarily disable their command functions." "How long will it give us?" he asked. 30 minutes at most. They have redundancies we can't account for." "That will have to be enough." Alan Foster's undercover work had yielded perhaps the most valuable discovery. During an inspection of an Archon medical facility, he had noticed something unusual about the aliens' physiology. "They have a hypersensitivity to certain sound frequencies," he reported after returning to a Resistance safe house. "Their auditory system is far more developed than ours. But that's also a weakness. Specific ultrasonic patterns cause them physical pain and disorientation." This discovery led to the development of sonic weapons that could incapacitate Archons without harming humans. The Resistance's network had expanded beyond Earth. Through careful communication, they had established contact with members of other species who had partially resisted the Archon control. These allies provided crucial information about Council weaknesses and strategies. One revelation changed everything. Humanity wasn't just another conquest for the Council. Humans possessed something the Archons feared: unpredictable creativity. "Your species thinks differently," explained a message from an alien Resistance member. "Other species follow logical patterns the Council can predict and control. Humans make intuitive leaps, create art without purpose, develop technologies in unexpected ways. This threatens the Council's order." This insight helped explain why the Archons were so intent on controlling humanity completely. They didn't just want to add Earth to their collection. They needed to neutralize a potential threat. Daniels used this knowledge to coordinate a global network of Resistance cells. Each group operated independently, but followed a central strategy. They placed members in key positions within the Earth Coalition, the human government that worked directly with the Archons. Civilian scientists who had joined the Resistance developed alternative technologies that didn't rely on Archon systems. They created independent power sources, communication networks, and transportation methods that could function after they cut ties with Council technology. As the integration ceremony approached, the Archons began to notice unusual patterns, small disruptions in their monitoring systems, unexplained equipment failures, humans asking questions they shouldn't. An Archon commander called a meeting with Earth Coalition leaders. "We have detected anomalies that suggest unauthorized activity," the alien stated, its skin shifting to a deep purple. "All humans must submit to enhanced screening before the Great Integration." The Coalition president, secretly sympathetic to the Resistance, replied, "That would delay the ceremony. Surely these are just technical issues. Humans are eager for the final gift you've promised." The Archons seemed to accept this explanation, but increased security measures around integration centers. What the Archons failed to understand was the scope of the Resistance. They were looking for a small group of dissidents, not a global movement operating right under their noses. They underestimated human ingenuity and the power of freedom. The resistance was ready. In 2 weeks, the future of humanity would be decided. The Archons moved with sudden urgency. Their smooth composure, maintained for 5 years, began to crack as they detected the growing resistance. Emergency meetings were called in the towering council headquarters in Geneva. The integration timetable must be accelerated, the Archon High Commander told the Earth Coalition leaders. Its skin flickered with patches of red and black. Colors humans had learned indicated agitation. For the benefit of all, the ceremony will happen tomorrow, not next month. News spread quickly. Across the globe, Archon ships appeared in the skies over major cities. The aliens announced that due to security concerns, the Great Integration would commence immediately. Kevin Daniels received the news in the Resistance's main command center beneath the ruins of an old military base. "They're panicking," he said to his officers. "They must know more about our plans than we thought." Susan Wright rushed into the room, face pale. "They're activating something, a global signal. Our sensors are picking up neural interface patterns at 10 times normal strength." Before anyone could respond, they heard screams from the upper levels. A resistance member stumbled into the command center, eyes glazed and movements jerky. "Must join the council," he mumbled, reaching for a weapon. 2 guards restrained him as Susan pressed a neural blocker against his temple. He collapsed, then blinked and looked around in confusion. "What happened?" he asked. "They've activated the dormant control technology already embedded in our population," Susan explained. "Anyone who's been using Archon tech without protection is vulnerable." Reports flooded in from around the world. Millions of people had fallen under the temporary influence of the signal, walking in trance-like states toward the integration centers. The resistance members protected by neural blockers remained unaffected, but they were vastly outnumbered. Then came the most shocking development. The Archons, always careful to maintain their humanoid appearance, began to change. Their bodies shifted, growing taller, their skin hardening into a shell-like covering. Their faces elongated, revealing features more insectoid than human. "They're showing their true form," Alan Foster reported from his position near an integration center. "They're not even trying to hide anymore." In orbit around Earth, massive council ships appeared, dropping through the clouds over every continent. Their message was clear. Resistance was futile. The world's governments fractured. Some leaders, already under Archon influence, urged complete cooperation. Others, secretly aligned with the resistance, called for humanity to reject the Council's demands. Military units exchanged fire in the streets of Washington, London, and Beijing as controlled soldiers battled those who resisted the Archon signal. In this chaos, Foster led a small team on what seemed like a suicide mission. Using the confusion as cover, they infiltrated the main Archon communications center in Dubai. "We need their broadcast technology," he told his team as they moved through maintenance tunnels beneath the gleaming tower. "Mary's virus can't be deployed from our systems. We need to use theirs." Above them, the Archon mothership hovered, bathing the city in eerie blue light. Security forces, both alien and controlled humans, patrolled the streets. Foster's team, equipped with sonic weapons and neural blockers, fought their way to the central command room. They lost 2 members in the fierce battle, but managed to secure the communication array. "We're in," Foster transmitted to Mary Wilson, who waited at a secure terminal thousands of miles away. "Sending you access now." Mary's fingers flew across her keyboard, uploading the virus she had designed to hijack the Archon network. "Connecting to all Council worlds," she confirmed. "Broadcasting in 3, 2, 1. Across the galaxy, on planets long under Council control, the truth about the Archons spread instantly. Records of conquered worlds, secret plans, the true purpose of the Great Integration, all exposed to the species they had subjugated. On Earth, the signal temporarily disrupted the Archon control frequency. Millions of affected humans paused in their march toward the integration centers, momentarily free from influence. The resistance had their opening. But the Archons, now revealed in their true form, were not surrendering. They deployed military forces to major cities, determined to complete their plan by force if necessary. The battle for Earth had truly begun. Susan Wright watched as her team finalized the weapon she had designed to exploit the Archean biological weakness. The device looked simple, a modified speaker array connected to a portable power source, but it had taken years of research to perfect. The frequency modulator is stable, reported one of her scientists. It will emit the exact ultrasonic pattern that disrupts their neural systems. Susan nodded. Mass production. The plans have been distributed to resistance factories worldwide. They're assembling them as we speak. While Susan's team worked on the weapon, the resistance launched a global information campaign. Using the brief window created by Mary's virus, they hijacked communication networks to broadcast the truth about the Council. People around the world watched in shock as evidence of the Archons' true plan appeared on their screens. Historical records showing the subjugation of other species, medical scans revealing the neural control technology, testimony from humans who had broken free from Archean influence. The most powerful footage came from those who had been temporarily controlled by the Archean signal. As they regained consciousness, many described the horrifying experience of being prisoners in their own bodies. I could see everything, a woman in Madrid testified, tears streaming down her face. I knew what was happening, but I couldn't stop walking toward the integration center. Something else was controlling my muscles, my voice. These testimonies spread rapidly. Even more remarkable was what happened next. Many humans who had been under complete control began to break free through sheer willpower. The Archons had never encountered this before. Other species had always succumbed to the neural technology completely. But humans, with their unpredictable minds, were fighting back. Reports came in from council worlds that Mary's broadcast had sparked uprisings. Species long thought completely subjugated were beginning to resist their Archean overlords. The council responded with force. Archean military units deployed to Earth cities, using advanced weapons against resistance fighters and civilians alike. Buildings crumbled. Streets burned. The death toll mounted. But the Archons faced a problem they hadn't anticipated. They had expected to fight a small group of rebels. Instead, they faced a coordinated global resistance that had been preparing for years. Kevin Daniels directed military operations from a mobile command center, constantly moving to avoid Archean detection. He coordinated attacks on Archean bases using modified Earth technology, weapons designed specifically to penetrate alien defenses. They expected us to use their technology, he explained to resistance commanders. They built in weaknesses and backdoors. But our old weapons, modified with what we've learned about their physiology, take them by surprise. While the battle raged on Earth, Alan Foster led the most dangerous mission of all. Using a captured Archean shuttle, his team approached the Council mothership orbiting above North America. Our sensors show minimal security inside, reported his pilot as they approached a docking bay. They never expected anyone to attempt boarding. Foster's team, equipped with neural blockers and Susan's sonic weapons, fought their way through the mothership's corridors. The Archons they encountered fell quickly, disoriented by the ultrasonic pulses. In the ship's central database, Foster discovered something that changed everything. Earth wasn't the first world to resist Council control, but previous attempts had always failed. The record showed dozens of civilizations that had detected the Archean plan and fought back, only to be overwhelmed. "What's different about us?" asked one of Foster's team members. Foster scrolled through more files. "Deception," he said finally. "The other species fought openly. We built our resistance in secret. They never knew our true numbers or capabilities until it was too late." Another file revealed something even more significant. The Archons themselves were controlled by a higher council authority they called the Primes. The Archons were as much victims as they were oppressors. This explains their behavior patterns, Foster realized. They're following programming, not making independent decisions. This intelligence gave humanity a critical advantage. The Archons were predictable in their responses, following protocols established millennia ago. Humans, with their adaptability and capacity for unconventional thinking, could outmaneuver them. As Foster transmitted this discovery to Resistance headquarters, Susan Wright deployed her sonic weapon globally. The effect was immediate and devastating. Across Earth, Archon forces collapsed, incapacitated by frequencies their neural systems couldn't process. The tide of battle had turned. Humanity had found the Archon weakness, and for the first time in Council history, Alan Foster moved carefully through the mothership's command center, his team securing vital control systems. The Archons lay incapacitated around them, their insectoid forms trembling from the effects of Susan's sonic weapon. The ship's vast view screen showed Earth below, the battles raging across its surface. Access the navigation systems, Foster instructed a Resistance technician. Lock out any remote override. Years of studying Archon technology had prepared them for this moment. Within minutes, the team had control of the mothership's primary functions. Foster opened a communication channel to Resistance headquarters. "Mothership secured," he reported. "We're locking down weapons systems and preparing to access the Council network." On Earth, Susan Wright monitored the global deployment of her sonic weapon. Reports flooded in from Resistance cells worldwide. The effect was devastating to the Archon forces. Their coordinated assault had collapsed into chaos as the aliens writhed in pain, their neural systems overwhelmed by the precisely calibrated frequencies. "Full deployment achieved," she announced to the command center. "Effectiveness at 93%. The remaining 7% appear to be using some kind of shielding." Kevin Daniels directed ground forces to target these protected Archons. "They must be leadership units," he reasoned. "Concentrate fire on any still standing." Meanwhile, Mary Wilson had expanded her viral attack on the Council's information network. From a hidden bunker equipped with captured Archon technology, she broadcast everything they had learned. The true history of the Council, the neural control methods, the existence of the primes who controlled even the Archons themselves. "Transmission reaching all Council worlds," she confirmed. "Their encryption is breaking down under sustained attack." The results exceeded all expectations. Across dozens of worlds, subject species who had lived under Council rule for generations began to question their reality. Those with stronger mental resistance broke free first, then helped others disconnect from the control systems. Riots erupted on Council administrative worlds. Archon forces, already stretched thin by the Earth conflict, couldn't contain the growing rebellion. Back on the mothership, Foster's team made another crucial discovery. The ship contained a database of all species subjugated by the Council, including detailed information about their homeworlds and current status. Some of these civilizations have been under control for thousands of years, Foster said as he scrolled through the records. The Archons keep them functional but docile, using them for resources and labor. He established communication links with Resistance movements forming on these worlds, sharing tactics and information about Archon weaknesses. Within hours, a loose alliance formed between Earth and a dozen other species fighting for freedom. The Archon leadership, faced with this unprecedented multi-planet uprising, made a strategic decision. Their forces began to withdraw from Earth, retreating to defensive positions around key Council worlds. Susan observed the Archon ships rising from Earth's atmosphere. "They're running," she said, disbelief in her voice. "Not running," Daniels corrected. "Regrouping. They'll be back with reinforcements." Intelligence gathered from captured Archons confirmed this assessment. The Council was marshalling forces from the sectors of space, still firmly under their control. They would return to Earth with overwhelming force. "How long do we have?" Susan asked. "Their fastest ships could reach us in about 11 months, Foster reported from the mothership. "They're gathering a fleet large enough to ensure victory." This gave humanity something precious: time. Earth forces moved quickly to secure all Archon bases and technology left behind. Scientists studied the alien equipment, no longer worried about hidden monitoring devices or neural interface components. People who had been under Archean control gradually recovered, though many suffered psychological trauma from the experience. The Resistance established treatment centers to help them heal and integrate back into society. Perhaps most valuable were the insights these formerly controlled humans provided. They had experienced the Archean consciousness directly and could describe how they processed information and made decisions. "They think collectively," explained one recovered scientist. "Individual Archons have limited autonomy. Major decisions require consensus from higher levels. This makes them powerful but slow to adapt." Earth used this knowledge to prepare for the coming invasion. Foster led efforts to adapt Archean ship technology for human use. Susan's team developed more powerful versions of the sonic weapons. Mary created advanced defense systems against neural attacks. Most importantly, Earth established secure communication with other liberated worlds. Together, they began planning a coordinated defense that would unite multiple species against the returning Council forces. The war was far from over, but humanity had won the first battle. They had done what no other species had managed in the Council's long history. They had stayed one step ahead. 1 year after the Archons retreated from Earth, the planet looked very different. The towering Archean structures had been repurposed as research centers and headquarters for the new Earth Defense Alliance. Hybrid ships combining human ingenuity with adapted Archean technology patrolled the solar system, watching for the promised Council return. Susan Wright stood at the window of the Global Science Directorate, watching workers below test a new shield generator. Her position as Director of Technological Development had kept her busier than ever during the past year. The gray in her hair had spread, but her eyes remained sharp and determined. "The latest tests are promising," she told the small group gathered in her office. "The shields can withstand twice the energy output of standard Archean weapons." Kevin Daniels, now heading Earth's unified military forces, nodded in approval. "Production status. We'll have enough generators to protect major population centers within 2 months," Susan replied. The former resistance leaders had become Earth's new leadership, their experience with the Archons making them uniquely qualified to prepare humanity for what was coming. Alan Foster was notably absent from the meeting. He was currently traveling between formerly subjugated worlds as Earth's ambassador. Mary Wilson entered the room, tablet in hand. "We've detected a transmission from the Centauri system," she announced. "It's from Alan. The Mycarians have agreed to join our alliance." This was significant news. The Mycarians possessed advanced biotechnology that could complement Earth's defensive capabilities. They were the 5th species to formally join what was now called the Free Worlds Alliance. "Any word on the Council fleet?" Daniels asked. Mary brought up a holographic display showing deep space sensor readings. "Still gathering at their staging area. Our estimates show they'll be ready to move in approximately 3 months." Susan turned back to the window. "We'll be ready. On a distant world with 3 moons and an orange sun." Alan Foster addressed representatives from 12 different species. Some resembled humans, while others were strikingly alien in appearance. All had one thing in common. They had broken free from Council control. "Earth doesn't seek to replace the Council as a galactic power," Foster explained. "We propose a true alliance of equals, where each species contributes according to their strengths and maintains their sovereignty." A tall, feathered being named Rylax spoke. "The Council offered similar promises when they first contacted my ancestors. Why should we trust humans?" "Because we've been where you are," Foster replied simply. "We know what it means to fight for freedom. And unlike the Council, we're sharing everything. Our technology, our weaknesses, our full intentions, without hidden agendas." After much discussion, all 12 species voted to join the alliance. Earth's reputation had spread quickly among the former Council worlds. Humans were becoming known as liberators rather than conquerors. Back on Earth, the first sign of the Council's return appeared as anomalous readings at the edge of the solar system. Massive ships, larger than any seen before, emerged from faster-than-light travel. Earth's defense fleet moved into position, joined by ships from allied species. The combined force was impressive, but the Council fleet outnumbered them 3-1. They're broadcasting a message, reported a communications officer at the Earth Defense Headquarters. On screens worldwide, an Arction appeared, but different from those seen before. Larger, with a golden carapace, it was clearly one of the mysterious primes that controlled even the Archons. Humanity, it began, its voice deep and resonant. Your resistance was unexpected but ultimately futile. Surrender now and join the Council as intended or face extinction. Susan, Daniels, and the other Earth leaders had prepared for this moment. Their response was broadcast not only to the Council fleet, but to every world in the Free Worlds Alliance. We speak not just for humanity, but for all free beings, Daniels began. We reject your ultimatum. We have seen your true nature and your hidden intentions. We know what you fear, the unpredictability and creativity that you cannot control. These are not weaknesses to be eliminated, but strengths to be celebrated. Susan continued, we offer you a choice instead. Join us as equals in a new galactic association based on mutual respect and genuine cooperation. Your knowledge and experience would be valued, but your dominance has ended. The Prime was silent for a long moment. This response was clearly outside its predicted outcomes. The Council had never faced a united front of multiple species before. What followed surprised everyone. Several ships in the Council fleet broke formation, moving to position themselves between the Earth Alliance and the main Council forces. We accept your offer, came a new transmission from an Arction commander. Not all of us wish to continue as we have. Many of us seek freedom from the Primes as well. The Primes immediately opened fire on the defecting ships. The battle that followed was brief but intense. The Free Worlds fleet, bolstered by the defectors with intimate knowledge of Council tactics, overwhelmed the remaining loyal forces. In the aftermath, as the damaged ships were tended to and prisoners taken, Susan turned to Daniels. We did it, she said quietly. We stayed one step ahead. Not just that, he replied, looking at the view screen showing representatives from all the allied species working together. We found something the Council never understood. Strength through diversity, not control. Earth and its allies began the work of establishing a new galactic order, one based on cooperation rather than subjugation. The former Archons, freed from Prime control, proved valuable allies, offering insights into worlds still under Council influence. Humanity's greatest achievement wasn't just resistance, it was creating a path forward that even their former enemies could join. In facing the Council's attempt to control them, humans had discovered their true strength, the ability to forge connections across differences and turn adversaries into allies. The stars, once threatening, now promised new discoveries and friendships as humanity took its place among the free peoples of the galaxy.